Hi everyone, so today we're going to talk about mindset, stress and the impact that has on inflammation levels in our bodies. So what's going on in our heads actually has a major impact on what we do and therefore what happens around us, often quite subconsciously. So our brains actually quite like to be proven right, and quite often therefore we'll find if we think that we can't do something, we'll almost unconsciously sabotage ourselves so that our brains prove themselves right. And you'd be like, I knew I couldn't do it. I knew that wouldn't happen. Whereas sometimes if we believe we can do it, it actually helps us to get there and achieve it. So just something to think about. When you're having a good day, sometimes everything just seems to be going right, you're in a great mood and you have this awesome day, and other days you have a really bad day and everything goes wrong. Everything you touch is just wrong. Is what's happening on these days actually different? Or is it just the way that we're perceiving it and our mindset, the way that we woke up that morning and the way that we started off? Has one good or negative event in the morning therefore meant that we perceive everything through the rest of the day? We see the good or we see the bad. It's worth thinking about. I always think it's quite interesting. Unfortunately, today we don't have time to go into all the aspects of mindset and how our brains work. What we're doing is talking about stress today, because that's the particular one that can have a real impact on inflammation levels. So stress is something that it's a good process. It's a coping mechanism within our bodies to stress. So again, it's an evolutionary process. We would come under pressure. We would come into danger. We would have fear for our safety. We might need to run. We might need to fight someone. And in these days, we're talking things like still fear for our safety, physical exertion. So when we run hard and we're really trying to climb something or do something like that. Exam pressure, deadlines, driving in bad weather, just that need to, that slight fear for your own safety and that need to be more alert. Worry, negative thoughts, negative conversations, all of these things produce physical or psychological stresses on our bodies. And so we cope with them by using our adrenal glands to release chemicals like cortisol. So this cortisol is the classic stress hormone, and it's the one that preps our bodies for this sort of fight or flight response to issues in our lives. So it tells the body to get ready to run, so it tells the cells to release more glucose, so that we've got that energy, so that we're ready to run, to escape, or to fight. And it also tells our cells to release chemicals that prepare us for damage, and therefore it can regulate inflammation. So, as I say, it's a good process in times of exam pressure. That extra little buzz that you get from that extra glucose can help you to focus and really power through the exam. The extra alertness can really help you trying to drive in bad weather when you're trying to really peer and you've got to really focus. And similarly, when you're trying to run away, this response is brilliant. So on its own, the stress response is not a bad thing. But like with pretty much everything else, and the general theme of this week is when it happens too often, it becomes bad, it becomes a problem. So the trouble we have these days, stresses are often repeated, they're quite often relentless. These deadlines don't go away, this feeling that we always have too much to do, negative thoughts about ourselves. They're not things that we can run from. And that can mean that we're constantly triggering the stress response, and we get what's called chronic stress. So chronic being just something that doesn't really go away. So prolonged or chronic stress can lead to adrenal fatigue, where the adrenal glands above your kidneys they get tired. They can't produce any more cortisol. They're on empty. And also we can get decreased cell sensitivity, where similar to what happens in diabetes with insulin that we talked about in a previous video. There's cortisol, but there's so much cortisol so often that the cells just start to ignore it. They become habituated to it, and they start to ignore, and they don't do what it's telling them to do. So they don't release these anti-inflammatory agents, they don't release the glucose, and they just, so your body tries to react to the stress by releasing cortisol, but nothing happens. So you don't get the solution, you don't get that alertness, and it's effectively might as well not be bothering. The other thing that can happen with stress is it can lead to poor sleep, which we'll talk about in a future video about sleep in a couple of days, and that raises inflammation as well. So it's really important that we learn to deal with stress. You can't always take your stresses away. Some of them can be removed, and if we can remove them, brilliant, but the reality is a lot of them is very hard to get rid of. So we need to learn to deal with our stress, to reduce our stress levels so that we stop producing cortisol for a while, so our bodies can sort of recover from that, our adrenals can recover, and our cells can stop just getting bored of the cortisol effectively and stop ignoring it. So when we're trying to think about dealing with it, the first thing, and again it's sort of a theme with a lot of these, what I'm talking about is become more mindful about it. So start trying to notice when you're feeling stressed. What effect does it have on you? What do you see when you're stressed? So is your heart rate gone up? Have you got butterflies? Do you suddenly feel like quite wired and kind of almost like you've had like a cup of coffee when you haven't? You know, what's it doing to you? Do you feel suddenly really tired? Do you suddenly feel like you just can't do anything, or do you feel stuck? Some people, stress can almost trap them in a, you become so fearful of or you get blocked in moving forwards, and it can stop you from making decisions. And then think about what triggered it. Try and start to link it to what your triggers are. Was it a conversation at work? Or was it, just thinking about how much you have to do? Was it facing a fear? So, fear of spiders or dogs or whatever. If you suddenly confronted with something that you find very fearful, what was it that was triggering you? Because that can help you to learn what methods might help you in that situation. So there are many ways to manage stress, but obviously not all of them work in every situation. So it helps to know what your main stress triggers are. It also helps to know what your stress response is. We talked about being more mindful to what happens to you. So there's two ways you can go. You can go overexcited. So when you feel stressed, you kind of get angry and agitated, and you can get a bit over emotional, be quite like hyped up and buzzing. And that's the way that I go when I get stressed. I get a bit like crazed. And so if you're that sort of person, then the best ways to relieve that stress are actually with calming exercises. So personally, I find just a moment to just reassess and do some deep breathing has a really great impact on me when I suddenly realise that I'm feeling stressed about a deadline or something, that I can't do. The other thing that can happen to you is that you can become underexcited. So stress can make you feel depressed and withdrawn. It makes you pull back from doing things. I feel a bit spaced out and like you can't move forwards. And so in that case, you're best off trying to relieve it with something stimulating and energizing, like going for a walk, or being able to being able to positively achieve an action. So let's look at some ways that we can reduce stress, and these won't all work for everybody, but hopefully you can find something that works for you in your situation. So exercise. We talk about exercise all the time. It's so beneficial for so many things, and stress is one of them. So the main benefits generally are seen from regular exercise with stress. So getting out, every day, every other day, get regular exercise. And that's partly because it releases endorphins, so you get a bit of an immediate response from the endorphins, which are these chemicals in your brain that are effectively your body's natural painkillers and sort of feel good hormones. So it can immediately lift your mood, which can help with immediate stress. And repetitive movements of sort of large muscle groups, so moving things like your thighs and your glutes and your back. These large muscle groups repeat sort of a regular movement of these, like walking or jogging, can be the most effective for stress relief. Food and drink, we can have an impact with some of the things that we eat or drink. So green tea, another benefit of green tea is it can help increase serotonin levels, which is another happy brain chemical. So again, it can be a mood enhancer. High levels of caffeine can increase stress. So some would say to avoid caffeine, but it actually varies a lot by person. So check in with yourself after caffeine. If you find that if you find it does make you feel a bit more stressed, if you find your heart rate's a bit up and you feel a bit more tense, a bit more jittery after caffeine, it's probably not doing your stress levels any good. If you feel like it's actually kind of calmed you down or got you to a good state, then perhaps it's not a negative thing for you. The other thing you can do is chew gum. It's actually a really good stress reliever. And apparently you get some sort of sports people who like going up to do their baseball, they'll chew gum on the way out to calm themselves down. But obviously chew sugar-free. We don't want to be chowing on loads of extra sugar all day just to de-stress, because that defies the point. So awakening the senses. So some of this is bringing you into kind of the here and now. Certain scents can be very calming, so particularly lavender, rose, vetiver, bergamot, and chamomile can be very scenting, very, very calming scents. So if you have a scented candle, or you can just have essential oils, put them in on a pillow or put them on a cloth, just rub them in your hand and breathe it in. You can get these vaporizers that will sort of steam it out across the room. You can burn incense sticks. There's a lot of ways that you can kind of use with aromatherapy to help you, or to give you time to relax and chill out, help you feel better. Music's really relaxing. Some people find it's best to have this sort of slow melodic, the kind of more the sort of orchestra style, or it can be just music you love. I'm more of like a heavy rock kind of girl, and so I don't get to find orchestra music relaxing, but I do love putting on some really loud music. I find that very relaxing personally. Snuggling in comfy clothes, that feeling of just getting in your really comfy jammies and pulling on a blanket that makes us feel safe and cozy and comfortable, and that can reduce your stress levels. It can help to put you into this sort of relaxed and comfy state. Or walking in a beautiful place, walking out. And for me, it's the woods. I love going into the woods. I feel the calming of being there. Going somewhere beautiful, somewhere that pleases the eye, or just looking at a photo of like a happy memory. All of these things can help to relax you and to make you feel happy and safe, and therefore reduce your stress. Socialising is great for stress relief. So spending time with friends and family really helps to improve your sense of like self-esteem and belonging, and particularly in women, it seems to elicit this sort of care response, sort of stay here and care rather than like fight or flight response, which is sort of almost the exact opposite of the stress response, which is due to oxytocin, which we produce particularly when we're around friends and children. And human physical contact, so physical contact with another human or even with pets, can actually release oxytocin as well. So yeah, hugging, it's a bit hard right now with the whole coronavirus thing. Hugging, not so allowed, but where you can, it's a really great one. And if you can't, just make time for a chat, and that will help you out as well. Sometimes when we're stressed and overworked, we have a tendency to drop socialising with our friends. We don't call people, we think we haven't got time, we cancel events because we're tired, when actually they're really beneficial for our mental state. So we should make the time to socialise with friends and family. It's worth doing. And if you really can't, then just put on a funny film, make yourself laugh. Laughter is a brilliant stress reliever. So find something that you find funny, a comedy, Michael McIntyre, put a funny film on, and have a good laugh, and try and find the humour in every day. So the more you can laugh in a day, the better you're gonna feel. Getting on top of things, sounds always easier said than done, because quite often you're not on top of things because you don't have time, and taking the time to get on top of things means you're more behind, and therefore it's quite stressful. But it is worth taking the time to do it. So, and one way you can make yourself more time is just learn to say no, even if it's just for a short term while you get on top of things. Learn to say no, not just to other people who are asking you to do things at work or at home, but to yourself. So learn to say no to yourself, all those home tasks and the expectations that you put upon yourself. I'm super guilty of that. Just deciding I need to do this and that and this and deciding I'm going to do all these things, which they'd be fine if I don't do them. You just need to let them go. Say to yourself, allow yourself to say, I can leave this for 2 weeks, for a month. I'm going to get my stuff in order and I'll come back to it. That's okay, but allow yourself that. You don't have to get everything done now. You'll have the rest of your life. Stop procrastinating. So it's very easy to think, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I need to do this, I need to do that. Just get on and do something. It's one less thing to think about, one less thing to keep remembering, one less thing to have on that list. To-do lists, really helpful, especially if they're prioritised. Again, it takes time to do them, but then throughout the day, if you've just, every time you're thinking, okay, what do I need to do now, or what should I be doing, you can just look at a list, and if it's prioritised and clear, you're working on the important things, or things that matter. You're not constantly thinking, oh God, what have I got to do, or how much have I got to do. You know what it is. And so it can help you to be a lot more productive as well, so you get more done in the day. So it takes time to make it, but you get more done in the day. So you make the time back. And just sometimes writing out your to-dos, writing that list out and getting them out of your head can be relaxing, because you're not trying to remember them all. Trying to remember them and worrying that you've forgotten something is a big cause of stress these days. So write it down, get it out of your head, let your head think about other things, and not be constantly worrying about the things you've got to do and remembering them. Journaling can be really helpful for this sort of thing as well, so I've put out separately. So just the act of just taking pen to paper, writing down your thoughts, just let it flow, just let it go. It can be a really good way to just vent, and also to sometimes realise what you're feeling. Sometimes you just write and you realise that things were affecting you that you weren't sort of consciously aware of. And so once you've got it down on paper, you can have a look and you can see what's bothering you, and you can sort of process it and maybe readjust or just accept and realise that that's what's causing you problems right now. It can be really freeing mentally. Sometimes people actually do that quite often, like at the end of the day, so you just get it all out before you go to bed, and then you can sleep better. Another thing you can do with journaling is to write down what you're grateful for. So write down good things. It doesn't have to just be bad. It can be what good things happen today. What are you grateful for in your life? Even if you just do this once a week, it's positive thoughts are much more healing than negative thoughts. So letting go of those negative thoughts and focusing on the positive ones, focusing on what's good, can be really helpful. As a little example, so as a family, we were travelling before coronavirus hit, and we'd been out for 7 months. The virus hit, it was all quite stressful, and we decided we had to come home, and we returned home to no house because it was rented out. All of our stuff was in the attic that we couldn't get to. So we had very few things, nowhere. Luckily, my parents have a flat that we were able to live in, a 1-bed flat with 4 of us. We had no jobs. We didn't know what was going on, like everybody else, didn't know how long it was going to last. And, so that situation, you could say, travel's cut short. We're living in a tiny, cruddy little apartment. I mean, the kids don't even have beds, no jobs. It all sounds pretty sad and miserable. So you could look at that as a really big negative. Or we actually chose to be grateful, and to focus on the fact that we'd made it home when so many people were stuck, and here we were safe in the UK, where we know how things work. We've managed to get our kids home, that we feel really lucky for the fact that we have this flat that we can live in that is free, and that the fact that we don't have jobs right now doesn't matter, because we've got this free place to live for as long as we need it. And actually the time, we just spent the time, we didn't have jobs, spent the time together. We got back into running because we had nothing else to do, so loads of time for that and things for ourselves. And I've launched a business, so I used the time for that. So, sometimes what could seem like a really bad situation, if you actually look at it with a different light, it can seem a lot better. So sometimes it's just about the way you look at things. It's usually a silver lining. Obviously, there are some things that happen that are just really, really crap, and there is none. But generally, there's something good that you can take out of something, a positive, even a learning experience. And if we can focus on that rather than the negative of what's happened to us, we can move forward better and with less stress and less baggage. Other things that are good: meditation, all these sort of mindset things, meditation, mindfulness, yoga, gratitude, affirmations, anything that helps you feel more positive about yourself, and to really, a lot of these get you to focus on the now, on your breathing, on your body, and on what's happening right now. And that can be really good for getting your mind off of all of any past negative things that are impacting and causing stress, or any of these future things that you're thinking about that have to happen, that you have to get done. Just focus on right now and breathing and body, and forget the rest of it. And they're really good for that. And they then elicit what's called the relaxation response, which is sort of the coming down from the stress, from the fight or flight. So whereas the fight or flight will increase your breathing rate, increase your heart rate, so that you're ready to run, ready to go, ready to escape. These, deep breathing and trying to relax your muscles, it helps to move your body into the after of that, which is lower heart rate, relaxed muscles, not needing any of that. So that's really helpful. So there's a few different ways there. Experiment with different ways. Not everything works for everybody. Find something that you can implement in your common stressful situations. So if you find the tube journey to work really stressful, blankets and pyjamas probably aren't going to do it for you in that example. Probably nor is yoga, but there's probably something you can do. Just, you know, deep breathing, put on some music. There'll be some things that you can do to try and make that a better experience for you. So yeah, experiment, try things out. Except that learning to deal with stress, it's a learned process. It's something you have to learn to do. So you're gonna have to practice it, and you're gonna have to try it. It's not gonna just happen on day one, but it's something that's definitely worth working towards. So you can lower your stress and lower your inflammation levels. So that was a quick recap or quick run through of stress and the effect of inflammation and how you can try to lower your stress levels. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you for listening, and speak soon.